Welcome to this explainer. I am so glad you're here. Today, I'm going to be your philosophical historian, and we're going to be tracking a truly massive paradigm shift in the history of human agency. We're looking at this incredible transition from an era defined by absolute, power-based control, right into an era of voluntary human cooperation. It's a huge shift, and it all centers around a profoundly deep text: raw power against holy power. We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover, so let's just dive right in.
Think about this for a second. We are looking at a primal clash here between raw, unpredictable human power on one side and absolute, holy certainty on the other. And it begs this absolutely fascinating, kind of uncomfortable question: can help be forced without becoming a cage? Historically, humanity was almost always acted upon. They were subjects. But what actually happens when absolute power decides it has to stop, step back, and literally knock on the door?
To really set the stage for you, we have to look at the immediate aftermath of the first human circle. They've just awakened their raw powers, and crucially, they did it without permission. Following this, the Council of Uneasy Powers ends, and it ends without peace. So tensions are high. The demons, well, they're fully expecting destruction. The Earthmasters are bracing for absolute burnout. But the angelic hierarchy does something totally unexpected. They don't attack, they don't command, they simply wait. And they extend an invitation through the summons of 9 waiting lanterns. Imagine this scene. A brilliant silver path appears in the valley. The angels, led by a figure named Avriel, don't arrive with drawn swords or blaring trumpets or heavy chains of judgment. Not at all. They bring this quiet, steady glow. It is an invitation, not a mandate. And the human reactions are so telling. Bran, one of the human powers, laughs and says that even angels have finally learned to knock. But Salah counters with a really sharp observation. She points out that no, the angels haven't just learned to knock. They've learned that humanity now knows how to refuse. And that observation brings us right to the core paradigm of our whole explainer, the boundary of consent. So what is this? It's an invisible threshold defending human agency from holy certainty. Ariel, the angelic leader, lays down an absolute, non-negotiable rule. Holy power can reveal, it can heal, it can illuminate the darkest corners, but it cannot seize the human will. It just can't. The moment you force a soul to kneel, you completely corrupt the source of the light itself. It's a total game changer for how higher powers operate. Now, you might be wondering, if the angels are being so respectful, why are the humans still so incredibly suspicious? Well, the angels form this open circle around the humans. There are no walls, literally 12 open exits. But you have to remember, human raw power was born from trauma and fear. To a traumatized mind, even a completely open circle feels suspiciously like a trap. Mira, another of our core figures, captures this human hesitation perfectly. She notes that if you are absolutely terrified to step out, open doors don't mean freedom. A cage with open doors is still a cage if your own fear is what's keeping you inside. Let's look a little closer at how these individuals internalize this boundary, because we see 2 vastly different reactions. Take Sela. She's someone who sees the underlying fractures in everything. Because of that, she actually realizes that holy power has cracks of its own, cracks born from the immense, exhausting effort of holding itself back, of its own restraint. Recognizing that vulnerability, Sela internalizes consent and allows the light in to heal her hidden wounds. But then, contrast that with Bran. Surviving a horrific furnace collapse taught Bran a brutal lesson. Any boundary is just a burning wall waiting to trap you. So his reaction isn't surrender. He viscerally attacks the boundary with raw fire.
Bran tests this invisible threshold to its absolute breaking limit. He is literally punching the golden angelic light with intense, concentrated heat. And what do the angels do? They don't strike back. They don't smite him. They simply endure the blows. Finally, an exhausted Bran demands to know why they won't fight back and stop him. Avariel's response is one of the most powerful moments in the text. He says, "Because stopping you is not the same as reaching you." Wow, that profound dignity, that total respect for Bran's agency, it does what no physical chain ever could. Realizing the boundary won't bite back, Bran finally lowers his fists. But physical force isn't the only way to test a boundary, right? Let's shift to our next character studies, Nadir Kell and Mira of the Broken Mirror. They challenge this holy certainty in completely different, non-physical ways. See, human raw power functions entirely differently from angelic or demonic influence. Take Nadir. His raw power actually has the ability to cancel force itself. When Nadir steps up to the boundary, even the grand angelic song falls dead silent. And then there's Mira, who approaches the boundary with an aura that doesn't reflect faces, but actually reflects deep underlying intentions. The way the angels respond here is fascinating. Faced with Nadir's absolute silence, they actually bow. Holy power honors him, recognizing a fundamental law that demons could literally never comprehend. Profound refusal is not the same thing as rebellion. It is simply a boundary. With Mira, the dynamic is even more staggering. Her mirrored aura reflects the angelic light back at them, forcing the angels to find a deep, uncomfortable self-awareness. They are forced to see themselves multiplied, not just as saviors or protectors, but as potential hidden tyrants. It makes the entire holy hierarchy tremble at its own inherent capacity for domination. Which leads us to a chilling yet absolutely vital realization from Mira. She realizes that even holy beings can become incredibly dangerous the moment they confuse care with control. Actually, I'd say this is the central lesson of the history we're tracking today. The purest, most absolute desire to fix someone will inevitably devolve into domination if it isn't strictly checked by consent. True, lasting healing doesn't come from the power to force a cure. It requires the immense patience to wait. And this patience, it completely baffles the 72 demonic crowns. They are watching these angels wait politely at the open threshold, and the demons just mistake it for pure weakness. So they immediately start sending whispering dreams to exploit human hesitation. Because demonic power thrives on domination, it relies on strict contracts. Demons fundamentally lack the capacity to even understand the concept of true voluntary consent. To them, it's a cosmic joke. They just view consent as a legal loophole, a tiny crack in the armor, just waiting to be exploited. This brings us to the ultimate trial of this new era. A demonic counterfeit angel arrives, and it offers the humans a very tempting deal: perfect safety in exchange for perfect obedience. Now, Avariel has the power to destroy this imposter instantly, but he refuses. Instead, he empowers the humans to ask the crucial, terrifying question: what happens if we refuse? The very moment Bran looks at the counterfeit and says no, the demon's illusion shatters and its wings turn into jagged hooks. It reveals the true demonic nature. Holy power only strikes the demon after the humans freely choose to refuse. The light is defending their choice, not forcing it.
In the aftermath of that intense encounter, Thomas Reed has a massive breakthrough. Thomas has a unique power. He senses the smallest living agreements. And this sets up a really brilliant contrast. Remember how Mira interpreted the boundary as a mirror to expose the dangers of control? Well, Thomas interprets the boundary as a quiet, sacred space to find agreement. He asks Averial, what happens if fear is so deep it steals a person's ability to even speak their consent? Averial reveals that power must then become humble enough to wait for a tiny nod, a ragged breath, or simply admit it cannot read the signs. The boundary Thomas realizes isn't a wall to keep people out. It is the sacred discipline of listening.
Let's step out of the historical text for just a second, because Thomas's insight echoes directly into how we handle interpersonal conflicts in our modern lives today. Think about a friend in crisis. If you force your help upon them when they aren't emotionally ready, you aren't actually helping. You're violating their agency. We have to adopt this sacred discipline of listening. We have to learn to listen for the small consent. We must respect a silent no. And perhaps hardest of all, we need the humility and patience to just wait when we frankly don't know what they need.
Getting back to our history, that exact same respect for human freedom is what anchors this entire new era of cooperation. Under the immense pressure of navigating these new powers, the human circle turns to Ilyan Marr, begging him to command them. They want a king. But Ilyan makes a profound choice. He declines the crown. He declares, "No angel will rule us, and I will not command you in the name of freedom." The humans managed to steady themselves, not because they were given an order, but because a vastly powerful figure chose to remain a witness rather than becoming a king.
As the sun sets on this extraordinary valley, the open threshold solidifies into a formal covenant, and it's witnessed by the living earth itself. For the first time, human raw power and holy certainty are standing side by side as equals. Selah accepts truth. Bran accepts tempering. Nadir gives his protective silence. And Tomas accepts the heavy duty to listen. It is the ultimate historical proof that humanity desperately needs relationship, but it absolutely, fundamentally rejects ownership. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought from Averial. He says, the opposite of domination is not abandonment. The opposite of domination is consent. You know, the demons failed because they incorrectly assumed that freedom just meant utter isolation. But this boundary? The boundary actually became a bridge. So I ask you to carry this into your own relationships. When you offer your help to someone, are you bravely waiting for their true consent, or are you secretly just hoping for their obedience? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this profound shift today.